Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Angel Aliano. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Fellow with the Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits. Welcome to SVCN's San Jose City Council District 4 Candidate Forum. Today we're joined by Kansen Chu and Councilmember David Cohen, two candidates for the District 4 seat of the City Council. We'll hear these candidates' views on various policy issues, from racial justice to housing, childcare, and more. If possible, we do encourage all members to have their cameras on and to please make sure that your microphones remain muted throughout the forum. As an organization, SVCN hosts these candidate fora to provide nonprofit leaders with the opportunity to learn more about the ideas, visions, and priorities of candidates for local office. We'll focus our discussion today on issues that impact nonprofits as partners, government contractors, community-based service providers, and advocates. Now, before we get started, we'd love to learn who's in the room with us. So please quickly introduce yourselves in the chat with your name, your pronouns, your title, your organization, along with the native land that you reside on. As a continuing SVCN practice, I want to acknowledge that in San Jose, where I'm located today, I currently reside on the unceded lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. Together, let us commit to educating ourselves and advocating for Indigenous peoples, for communities that have been neglected and displaced by the US government and other colonial powers across the world. Since people are tuning in from different areas, I do encourage you to learn about what land you're living on by using the website my colleague has just shared in the chat, and to please include that information in your introduction. Now, for accessibility purposes, we do have the automated closed captioning feature in Zoom activated. Now with this, you do have the ability to move the captions around on your screen to a more convenient area. Or you can also disable the closed captioning feature entirely if you prefer not to have it up. To do so, please reference the bar at the bottom of your Zoom, which is pictured here on the slide. Then click on Show or Hide Captions, the Show or Hide Captions button on the right side. Here you can toggle captions on and off. And if you're having any other tech troubles or any other issues whatsoever during the session, please feel free to private message me or any of my SVCN colleagues directly in the chat. Now, moving us right along, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's forum.
Thank you, Angel. Welcome, candidates. Oh, can you hear me? Happy to be here, and thank you to SVCN for having me again. I'm excited to moderate this forum. I will be going over the ground rules regarding format and timing. Audience members, we ask that you please remain on mute while the candidates are speaking throughout the forum. Candidates, you will each have up to 2 minutes for opening statements. Afterwards, I will be asking a series of SVCN and audience submitted questions. You will have 2 minutes each to answer each question, plus an optional 1 minute each for rebuttal, if you choose to take it. If you will be using the rebuttal time, please pause for a moment to let our staff members change the timer. For the convenience of the candidates and our audience members tuning in, we will also be dropping the questions in the chat live, as they're being asked, so you can follow along. Now, during the forum, we will be including a lightning round of questions, which is really fun. It'll be a mixture of fun topics that will require a yes or no answer, or a response of 1 sentence or less. After asking a few more questions, we will finish up by having each candidate share their closing statements, which they will have up to 2 minutes each to do so. Throughout the forum, candidates, we will be speaking on a rotating basis to ensure that each candidate has a fair opportunity to speak. Audience members, you have some options for how to view your screen. If you want to view only the speakers, leave the setting as is. If the shared screen with your timer looks too big on your screen, you can toggle the middle line over to the left so the speakers are bigger and the timer is smaller. And one final note to our candidates, please remember to be respectful to your fellow candidates and of the time allotted to each answer. For your convenience, we will have a timer on the screen so you can visually see how much time you have to answer each question. With that being said, I'd like to introduce our candidates, Kansen Chu and Councilmember David Cohen. Welcome, candidates. Thank you for being here. You have 2 minutes for opening statements, and we will start with David.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time today talking about the important issues facing the city of San Jose and District 4. I've really enjoyed the relationship I have with the Council of Nonprofits over the past decades as a school board member and a city council member. We worked on a lot of things together, particularly this past year when we were working on the budget and trying to find ways to make sure that our solutions to homelessness in the city of San Jose are an all of the above and not a choice between one or the other. So I was really grateful for the support and advice from membership of SVCN as we went through that process last year. I'm also really putting a lot of effort into making sure that our neighborhoods in the District 4 that have not always had a voice on council have a voice on council. People don't know about the extent of District 4, but it extends all the way from Alviso to the Berryessa East Foothills, and really has quite a variety of different types of constituencies. The area of Alviso has often considered itself underrepresented, so I've worked really hard to provide extra resources there, including bringing in funding for the library for some improvements that have been long overdue, and also doing park upgrades there that they had been asking for a long time. And I'll mention the one other neighborhood, the Orchard neighborhood, which is our Title I school district in the single school district in the western edge of Berryessa. They were threatened by an overpass that was going to be planned to come over 880, had been approved by the council. And I worked really closely with colleagues on the council to bring it back for reconsideration to protect the school from having to have its land taken by eminent domain by the city, and bisecting the neighborhood from the school and making sure that students are safe on campus. So I've been working on issues that are important to all of us, and I look forward to continuing the discussion the next hour.
Thank you, David. Kansen. Well, I think you're on mute, Kansen.
Oh, okay. Somebody must muted me earlier, but happy Valentine's Day. My name is Kansen Chu. I want to share a little bit of background of me. I came to the United States as an immigrant, as a graduate student with a few $100s in my pocket. After I finished my master's degree in electronic engineering, I moved to San Jose and married my wife, and we've been a long-term resident of San Jose for more than 40-some years. So really enjoy the 40-some years where we're here, raise up families, and now even have grandchildren. And I was very honored to have elected to the Berryessa School Board and San Jose City Council twice, and state assembly in 3 terms. I have to left Sacramento to come home to be closer to my airline mother, and she passed away at the age of 100 after 4 months that I was at home. So I'm coming back to San Jose and coming back to my root, trying to address some of the quality of life issues. We're talking about the public safety, people don't feel safe, and I see the increase in the homelessness. We'll definitely want to tackle that problem with the other governments as well, and also make sure that San Jose keep an economic growth path, so we will not have to face the budget deficit year after year. So I want to take this opportunity, my last 9 seconds, to thank SVCN for your work in the community over so many years. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. We will now move on to our Q&A part with our first question. In November of 2024, Bay Area residents may vote on a Bay Area housing bond measure, which would generate $2.2 to $4.5 billion for governments in the South Bay to build more affordable homes and preserve existing affordable housing. What are your ideas or commitments to expanding and protecting revenue sources that would address the housing crisis, including supporting the bond, protecting Measure E funds, or developing other sources? We'll begin with Kansen.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we should definitely have a lockbox in the measure language, so people will not even thinking about putting their hands in that jar. And that's very important. We did it at the state legislature for the SB1 and the transportation bond measures. So I think putting a lockbox will help and will give more confidence to the voter that will love to support the affordable housing, and also would like to make it more of a non-profit driven. You know, I would definitely like to first check with a nonprofit like Designation Home, understand and their long-term plan and how much they need to accomplish their long-term plan to set the amount of the bond measure. You know, it could be a range of 2.2 to 4.5 billion, but we have to kind of do a little bit front work, you know, and so we can pretty much present it to the voter that not only will get this money and we will spend those money on time on the project that would work with a nonprofit organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Kansen. David.
Thank you. We know that the affordability crisis is the number one issue facing our community, and I hear it every day from people who are worried that their kids and grandkids won't be able to stay here in the Bay Area. I worry about my kids who are college age and who are likely, you know, it might be very difficult for them to come back after they finish college and start their careers here. So we need to focus on addressing the affordability crisis, which will have multiple solutions. And I know this issue will permeate a lot of the questions that are coming in this forum. So I'm sure I'll have a chance to address some of them. But as far as funding, Measure A was a huge benefit to Santa Clara County. In partnership with the county, we've built thousands of housing units as a result of Measure A, but now that it's retiring, we need to find an additional dedicated funding source. So I'm very supportive of the Bay Area Regional Housing Bond that will help provide dedicated money to continue to build affordable housing. Now, as far as Measure E, which was passed by the voters to provide income to the city, which a significant portion was meant to go to affordable housing, I remain committed, as I did last year, to ensuring that we preserve that fund and keep the pipeline of affordable housing going. It's a difficult balancing act with the short-term homeless needs that we have. Many of you know I worked with you closely last year during the budget debate as the mayor wanted to reallocate for 1 year all of Measure E's affordable housing money to interim housing and short-term homeless solutions. And for me, it's had to be all of the above. We had to continue to protect Measure E for affordable housing because we can't wait, take a pause for a year in funding affordable housing projects. And we had to find other ways to fund the necessary homeless programs. And we did that last year, and I'm committed to doing that again this year. And I know that I'll be having conversations with much of the community about that going forward, but I'm hopeful that the mayor will be more thoughtful in his budget approach as we enter this year's cycle.
David, thank you. Would either of you like to take a rebuttal time?
I just a little additional comment. I think maybe when we do the bond measure for affordable housing, we could include a portion of it for emergency housing as needed, because there is an emergency, some crisis we'll also like to address. I don't want to pit one against each other. Maybe we can do a little bit more inclusive language on the bond measure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kansen. Our second question, raising a child has grown increasingly unaffordable for families in our region, with caregivers paying an average of $20,000 a year for childcare, according to a recent survey from Choose Children. In response to rising childcare costs, the city of San Jose joined the County of Santa Clara's Build the Future initiative for universal affordable childcare. What do you think the city's role should be in addressing the community's needs for affordable early education and childcare? We'll start with David on this question.
Yes, I am very supportive of the universal preschool and universal childcare, which I think has to be an initiative that is funded out of the state. It's going to be really hard for the city to provide dedicated funding. Having said that, we have a lot of programs for early childhood care in the city at our community centers and libraries. Our Early Start program at the library, at the community center, has a large number of students enrolled at the community centers across the city. And I'm very proud of the work that our PRNS department does in making sure that our students our young children have an opportunity to get the support they need at an early age, and that we have free preschool options for families who can't afford to send their children to preschools. We also need to help make it more favorable for people to open preschool and childcare centers. We have a problem now with just a lack of childcare placements available. And during the pandemic, of course, we lost a lot of childcare businesses. And so I'm very supportive of the city streamlining its permitting process for childcare businesses so that they can begin to recover and offer more spaces again for folks in the city of San Jose. We know how important this is to get mothers into the workforce and for families to be able to, for kids to be able to get the foundation they need to be successful in school. And so it's really important that we support those kinds of placements. Within the city of San Jose, one of the things we're talking about is providing a service to the employees of our city, which would help them. Would be a childcare placement service to help them find placement for their children so they can come back to work and have places for their young ones to go after they have taken their family leave. So we need to continue to help in any way we can.
David, thank you. Kansen.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree with David that this really a universal childcare or early childhood education should definitely be the responsibility of the state. Definitely supported the first 5 initiatives and I work very closely with them. When I was in the assembly, I have made a proposal to increase the number of child care slot and preschool slot, and also improve the quality of the services that they provide to our children. And I have a saying at the assembly that if I can make the mandatory education from PK to 12, I'd rather do it from the child care, 3-year-old to 11. So it is very, very important, and that we put at any level of government to put attention to this very issue. And I'm also very proud of the PRNS of the San Jose, because I know in various community center, we provide services to at least 6 homeless students. And so those programs could be expanded and to help out with more of this disadvantaged student to be able to perform well at a school, because after all, we have invested so much money in public education. We want to get every bit of the positive outcome out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone would like to take a rebuttal at this time or no? Okay. All right, next question. Last week, San Jose City Council instructed the city manager to prepare options for additional investments in the city's violence prevention and intervention efforts in the 2024-2025 budget. Will you be supporting these additional investments? And if so, toward which existing programs would you direct these funds? Finally, what new ideas or programs would you have to address the root cause of violence? And we'll start with Kansen.
Thank you. Yeah, that definitely I will support it. and worked with the Mayor's Game Prevention Task Force when I was on the San Jose City Council. They do a wonderful job of like do a lot of tattoos removement and doing some really turning the lives of so many people around. So I will definitely continue support, especially a preventive measure, and getting to the root cause of those problems, and make sure that those families can get some adequate support from our county government, who's really more responsible for the social services at a different government structure. But game prevention task force is definitely a way to kind of discover some of the issues, and then we can definitely kind of pass them or refer them to the county to provide additional services to solve the game issue or some other public safety issue that affecting our young children. Thank you.
Thank you, Kansen. David.
Yeah, thank you. I supported the initiative last week to further study and come back to council with recommendations of what we can do, and look forward to the discussion going forward in our budget process as to and further invest in violence prevention and public safety, but not just public safety, but giving families and children the resources that they need to be successful. Mostly the issue is one of poverty and one of opportunity, making sure that children are growing up with the resources to be successful in school and be out of poverty. We need to make sure that they have the resources. That's why I was the initial founder of the East Side Alliance, to the Equity Alliance, to make sure that all students in the east side of San Jose had access to Wi-Fi. Started that as a school board member, was one of the founding members, and I was really proud to be able to work to finish that project as a city council member. So we now have free Wi-Fi available to almost all the students in the east side of San Jose. We also are investing, as I said, in childcare programs and daycare programs at our community centers. But in addition, our city is one of the largest providers of after-school care for our kids, making sure they have a place to go and be safe after school with activities, social programs, homework centers, partnerships with organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, which provide thousands of students with after-school care, is really important. I was a tutor one year for a student at the Boys and Girls Club to help them with their homework. And it's really important for us to continue to support these organizations that provide those services. We know that education and economic opportunity are the keys to preventing violence in our community.
David, thank you. Would either of you like to take a rebuttal at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Well, let's move on to our lightning round of questions. There will be a series of quick questions. Each can be answered with a yes or no or one sentence or less. We will start with David and alternate between candidates with each question. First question, what was the last book you read, David?
Well, I wish I had more time to read books. I try to read 1 to 2 books a year. Given all the other things I'm reading, I don't read as much. But this year I read a book about water and providing the policies that could. It's a book called Let There Be Water, which explains policies for how to deal with drought and make sure there's enough water for people in the community.
Okay. Kansen, what about you?
I read a book. It was written by a Filipino friend of mine, LP. The title was Unbreaking the Chain of Poverty. And I was very honored to do the forward, the preface on that book. I encourage you to get a copy of it.
Great. All right. Well, if you could pick any superpower, what would it be? And we'll start with Kansen.
There's a superpower. What would that be? Well, peace on earth.
Okay. I like that. David?
Well, I guess I've always wished I had more time in the day. So I'd love to have the superpower to be able to freeze time and you get more things done.
That's a great one. That's a great one. All right. Have you ever signed or will you commit to signing the Racial Equity Action Leadership or REAL Coalition's non-racism campaign pledge? I will start with David.
I believe I did. There's so many things I think I have, yes, and I would.
Okay, Kansen.
Definitely, as a minority, in this community, I've worked with Council Member Magdalena Carrasco during the COVID to make sure that the East Side, the people with color, would get the equitable amount of support.
Do you have a pro tip for shopping and eating in your district? We'll start with Kansen.
A protest?
Pro tip.
Oh, pro tips. Unfortunately, in various, we don't have a lot of high-end restaurants. But the one I visit the most is the King Egg Roll of Lundy. Oh, their egg roll is just number one.
Awesome. David, what about you?
What's so great about our district, about District 4, are the huge ethnic variety of food choices, and so it's hard for me to settle on one. Depending on what you like, there's a lot of great options, especially local-owned businesses. Our newest, greatest one is Pho San Jose, which is really, really amazing and really, really popular.
What's one historical figure, living or dead, you'd like to have lunch with? And David, we'll start with you.
Probably I would enjoy having lunch with Barack Obama and talk to him about his past and his political experiences.
Awesome. Kansen.
Norman Etta. It was my mentor.
Aw. Okay, do you prefer tea, coffee, or another drink? We'll start with Kansen.
Tea, oolong tea, Taiwan, high mountain oolong tea.
Okay, David, what about you?
I'm a none of the above on tea and coffee, but I do I get my caffeine through my diet talk.
Your energy?
No, I need the caffeine.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, if you can master one skill or talent, what would it be? And David, we'll start with you.
Well, I played piano for a long time when I was younger, but I never felt like I got where I needed to go. And so I would love to be able to get better at that. And that's my retirement project.
All right. That sounds nice. Kansen, what about you?
My linguistic ability and my memory, because my wife can speak so many different dialects in Chinese, and she's learning Vietnamese, and I'm still learning how to say the Chinese and English. So I need to improve my linguistic abilities. I think it's about your years. They're saying that you can be able to tell the minor differences between sound to be able to mimic the voices. So I have sharp ears, but I cannot tell the minor differences and the accent and stuff like that. So,
well, thank you both for those lightning round answers. We're going to go back to our regular Q&A. It has been said that living in poverty is a full-time job and that families struggling financially must interact with many systems to get what they need to be safe, stable, and healthy. What can the city do to lift some of this burden from families and support their success? Kansen, we'll start with you.
I came to the United States basically with nothing, but I always have a very positive attitude that if I work hard, if I study hard, that I will be able to survive. So I think that we have to give a face to those people that America is a land of opportunity, and to encourage them, give them opportunity to learn the skill they need, or they wanted to learn, or they prefer to learn, and then guide them and help them to a road to success. So that did I answer that question, or at least part of it?
You did. You did.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
David.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about several of the key things that are needed. Obviously, the affordability crisis is what's holding a lot of people back in our community. So we really need to do even more, even though, I know we're doing a lot, but we need to do even more to build affordable housing. I'm really excited about many of the projects coming forward. We're going to need that regional housing bond and some additional grants from the state in order to fund the housing projects that are in the pipeline. But that's number one. Number two really is the opportunity for people to have access to childcare and healthcare. That's why I've been a big supporter of universal single-payer healthcare. And if we can't do it federally, we have to do it in the state of California. I have supported Assemblymember Kalra's bill to implement single-payer healthcare in the state, because the lack of access to medical care and health insurance is holding a lot of people back and causing a lot of issues, keeping people in a cycle of poverty. Just like the lack of access to childcare, where people can't get into the workforce because they have to stay home with their kids. So those are two major issues that I think have to be solved at a systemic level to give people access. In addition, we need to continue to do all we can to keep people in their homes, offering people resources when they're at risk of eviction. I authored the policy in the city to offer right to counsel to people who are in their homes if they're about to be evicted, so that they have equal access to legal assistance as their landlords do. And then we should continue to fund our rental assistance programs, which we know are highly successful, keeping people housed and keeping people off the streets, which obviously is the worst potential outcome for people in poverty. So there's a whole host of things that we can continue to do as a community to solve the problem.
Thank you, David. Would either of you like to take a rebuttal?
Oh, I just have a little added comment about
That's
universal.
One moment. Let's just reset the timer real quick.
Yeah, I just want to add it to say that I also support the universal healthcare, but I insist that implemented at the federal level, because we have done a study in the Assembly Committee on the readiness of the state to take on this federal government issue. We're still lack of a lot of healthcare providers, especially in the rural area, that a lot of people have to travel hours to get a special care to see a specialist. So for the state to take on something that the federal government to do is a very, very dangerous thing. It's like, well, if the state won't do it, shall we do it in the city of San Jose? So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next question. Many of our low-income families and communities of color have greater exposure to environmental toxins like lead and poor air quality, and have lack of access to outdoor spaces to play. What can the city do to ameliorate or improve these exposures and create better access to green spaces? We'll start with David.
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. Environmental sustainability is one of the most important priorities of mine. I'm a big believer in making businesses pay the effects of the work that they do and pay for the contamination that they have brought to our community. So we should continue to pursue those kinds of remedies. But the other thing that we need to remember is that people of low-income people and people of color have always been moved or continue to have industrial uses placed near them, which causes them to have worse air outcomes, water outcomes, and live around pollution. And so we need to do a lot to improve our equity for those parts of the city. That's why I'm focused on improving our tree canopy in the worst parts of the city, making sure that we have recognize that East San Jose is way behind the rest of the city on trees. And I'm glad that I've pushed the city to be more engaged in planting trees in those parts of the city. But more importantly, as we electrify our grid and deal with going carbon neutral by 2030, we will be removing the necessity for these dirtier industries and solve the problem with trucking, but we also need to make sure that as we electrify, that we're giving access to EV charging to people in these other parts of the city that don't currently have access to EV charging. That's why I'm pushing for the strongest possible EV reach codes to be implemented in the city of San Jose, so that all residents of multifamily apartments in the future will have access to charging, have the ability to buy electric vehicles, and will cause cleaner environment, cleaner air, fewer emissions, and help us get to our climate goals. So we just need to continue to focus on that, and in addition, continue to push for remediation and make sure that businesses are paying to clean up the messes they leave behind.
David, thank you. Kansen.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Dave that those companies that produce a lot of contaminant need to pay the price. Many years ago, I remember that there's a company wanted to build a crematorium next to a school. About about 100 feet away from the school. So we organized the neighborhood and protested, and we stopped them to the crematorium to come to near the schools. But I think to address the problem of the more concentrated neighborhood, we definitely should improve the bus services, because not everybody can afford an all-electric vehicle now. There's still price higher than the combustion cars, and also a lot of people are still driving a 10 or 12-year-old cars like myself. So, but the bus service is more reliable. Bus services, I think, would really help with some of the carbon emission in a more concentrated area. And park is important. Not only we need to build more park, large or smaller park, but also make sure that we have funding to maintain the park and to keep it safe for the residents to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Would either of you like to take a 1-minute rebuttal?
Yeah, I'd like to take time, please.
Thank you, David. We'll reset the timer. All righty.
Yeah, thank you. It's important to point out that the cost of electric vehicles have significantly decreased. And one of the misperceptions out there is that people can't afford to buy electric vehicles. There are many electric vehicles that are now at parity in cost. And the incredible savings that you have on maintenance when you drive an electric vehicle more than pays off. So we need to do a better job of educating the public, but also making charging readily available so that people know that they're able to charge at home, because that's the biggest impediment now to people getting electric vehicles. But public transit is obviously an important piece of that. That's why we're expanding VTA light rail down to East Ridge through East Side, to make sure that people have easy connection to BART and to other transit hubs from the East Side, so that they don't have to use cars, so they don't have to have other means of getting around, but they'll have readily available electric transportation systems.
Thank you, David. Kansen, did you want a 1 minute?
No, I just want to ask David, what would he recommend for all the electric vehicle? Because I'm in the market of buying an all electric vehicle. I'm driving my 12-year Prius, but it's been a reliable car. But what would David recommend for? And well, we can talk about it offline.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay. All right. Next question. The cost of living in Silicon Valley is one of the highest in the nation, requiring at minimum some post-secondary education, preferably a 4-year degree, in order to earn a living wage. Many young people do not see a future for themselves here or a pathway of self-sufficiency. How do we support the development trajectories of all young people in the critical ages of their late teens into early adulthood to ensure they find their footing and eventually raise families here? We'll start with Kansen and then David.
I think it's important that we've tried our best to bring some more manufacturing job to the Bay Area. Definitely, there's a high demand of high pay engineers, but we should try very, very hard to bring some not so high pay job opportunity to San Jose. This is a long-term goal for me for the North San Jose job plan for the future development of the North San Jose area. Thank you.
Thank you, Kansen. David.
Yeah, and this comes back to some things we've talked about before. We need to make sure that people have the opportunity to be successful, that they have access to good schools, they have access to good after-school programs, that they have access to technology and Wi-Fi, that they are in stable housing, and that we build enough affordable housing so that families can live here. And we don't, while we want to uplift everyone, we also have to be aware that it's really important that we have a full ecosystem of types of workers, all that are able to live in our community. It's not right that people who are teachers and other public sector workers have to travel from hours away. And even worse, people who work in our restaurants, do our maintenance, work in our stores, work in retail, work do all the jobs that we need in our community, can't afford to live here. So we have to have a singular, relentless focus on building affordable housing, but we also have to make sure that people, when they're teens, have access to education, that have access to counseling. That's why, as a school board member, counseling was my #1 priority. We added, made sure that every school has full-time counselor in the Berryessa School District. Every school has a full-time social worker in the Berryessa School District. We were the first district to do that when I brought it forward as a school board member, because students need to have access to adults to help guide them for their future and make sure that they have the resources and the understanding of how to navigate the systems and potentially apply to college or to vocational school. We also need to partner with our vocational programs to help guide people into good paying jobs that might not necessarily require a college degree. So we have some very good programs here in this county, and the city of San Jose is doing more to try to partner with and hire people out of those programs so that people understand that that's a good place to go as well.
Great, thank you. Either of you like to take a 1-minute rebuttal, or can we move on to the
Yes.
next? Okay, Kansen, we'll reset the timer to 1 minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, since David mentioned about counseling services, when I was in the assembly, I got an award from Mental Health America for pushing for behavioral health counseling services in the public school. And I think that's very, very important, and definitely streamline the building process in the city so we can have more affordable housing is key. The whole North San Jose job plan calling for 32,000 units of residential housing unit. 20% of them are affordable or below the market rate. So it is important that we'll continue increasing our inventory of affordable or below market rate housing.
Great, thank you. We've been doing really well on time, so we have time for one extra question after this one. So composed of over 125 nonprofit leaders and allies, the Racial Equity Action Leadership REAL Coalition has been meeting since June of 2020 to advocate for a more racially just and equitable society. These nonprofit members work to fight systemic racism within their organizations and among their governmental, philanthropic, and private sector partners. What are the major racial justice and equity outcomes that the city should accomplish in the next 2 years, next 4, and the next 10 years? We'll start with David.
Yeah, thank you. And again, these come back to some of the fundamental issues of affordable housing, resources for people, availability of childcare, availability of technology. But in addition to that, we're going to have to make up for years of systemic racism and systemic redlining that has segregated our communities. We're going to be hearing coming forward in the next few months our tenant preference program in the city of San Jose, so that as new developments are built in certain parts of the city, that we have first preference for people who currently live there. So we're not continuing to displace people from where they grew up as new developments are built. That's going to be really important to try to address these long-term systemic issues. So I think that's our short-term, one of the short-term goals I have is those tenant preference programs, to make sure that as we build more affordable housing, that that it's not displacing people and gentrifying our neighborhoods. We'll have to continue to focus in the medium term on the affordable housing projects, continuing to invest our Measure E dollars and hopefully a regional bond measure in building affordable housing, making sure that North San Jose and other parts of the city have significant numbers of affordable housing units. I'm very excited about 100% affordable housing projects in the works in North San Jose. But the unfortunate thing about the first 8,000 housing units that were built under the North San Jose plan is that 0 of them were affordable. And that's why the city council, under my direction, has taken a firm stance that we are going to insist that 20% of all housing units built in North San Jose going forward will be affordable, and we won't allow exceptions as were allowed in the past. So we are focused on making sure that we have opportunity here in San Jose for people to live, work, and make a living here. And that's going to go a long way to addressing some of these longstanding racial inequities.
Thank you, David. Kansen.
Yeah, David mentioned about the affordability. I think it should be a new policy. The reason that David felt that there were no 20% affordable housing in North San Jose, because our ordinance didn't require the for rent unit also have a 20% affordability factor. So the fact that when we opened up the North San Jose job plan, the real estate financial situation that is that the developer cannot get any loans to build a for sale housing, and that's why Irvine Company, a self-funded company, end up getting a big chunk of those 8,000 building permit, and because our ordinance does not specify that for rent unit also should have some affordable factors in there. So this is something that I would like to look into it for the affordability issue on the rental unit. And back to your original the question, I think we can start with the leadership, with the city council to elect some have a more diverse city council, elect somebody who came here as a graduate student and first generation and immigrant. But really important to make sure that all the staff, the rank and file stack in the San Jose City has a very, very diverse force. So to really be able to understand the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Would either of you like to take a 1 minute? Okay. All right. Now to our last question. Despite investments, tens of thousands of residents in Silicon Valley remain without access to reliable, affordable internet service. How do you plan to ensure widespread digital access, including internet, for city residents? And I believe we're going to start with Kansen.
Thank you. I remember during the COVID first hit the nation, the state have allocated sufficient fund to make sure that all residents in San Jose has the internet services. I mean, as far as San Jose is concerned, I'm confident that well, if not all, but 99% of the family do have internet access. But some other rural areas, there's still some work that needs to be done by the state legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, Kansen.
Yeah, this was definitely a problem that we recognized back in the late, a couple years before the incidence of COVID. I was one of the founding members of the Digital Equity Coalition, which was a group of school board members from across the city, not just on the east side, but across the entire city, focused on making sure that people had access, because we know that a large number of students in our school did not have access at home, did not have the ability to use Wi-Fi. Some people were going to coffee shops, library parking lots, or other places to get public access. So the first part of the city that was built out as part of that coalition, and that was funded by a combination of the city and other private sector and nonprofit donors, was to build out an infrastructure of Wi-Fi access throughout the east side of San Jose. And so now the attendance areas of all but one or two of the East Side High School district schools have public Wi-Fi installed throughout the neighborhoods in those attendance areas, so that every single person has a Wi-Fi access point close to their home with the ability to connect for free. We need to continue to improve the technology. There's some parts that I'm still working on trying to figure out the technology to do the same in the mobile home parks, because the mobile home parks have different kind of infrastructure and unfortunately have not received the same access that residents in other parts of the districts have received. And so I'm pushing our digital team at the library staff in our city to find solutions to be able to build out, for example, in my district, the rest of the Orchard School District, so that the residents there who live in places like Casa del Lago will have access to free Wi-Fi. So there's more to be done. The city is on board to doing it. And we have to continue to go out and get federal and state grants to pay for it. But I'm optimistic we're going to continue to expand.
All right, thank you, candidates. With either of you like a 1-minute rebuttal before we move on to our closing statements? Okay, that was our last question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes each to say their closing statements. We will start with David.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you so much. These are really important topics, and I really appreciate the challenging questions that cause us to really think about what it is that we're doing and why what we're doing is so important on the City Council. I will continue to be focused on building affordable housing, providing opportunity for our residents, making sure residents have access to the care that they need both before and after school and during school, making sure that we continue to improve our traffic safety. One thing we haven't talked about that is related to equity is the fact that it's less safe on the streets in certain parts of the city and other parts of the city, and our Vision Zero initiative is really, really important. I co-authored the memo with Vice Mayor Chappie Jones to focus on improving traffic safety around schools. So now every school in the entire city of San Jose is getting a traffic improvement project from the Department of Transportation as a result of this effort, where we're working collectively with school districts to identify the areas of highest need. I serve on the School City Collaborative, which is a body that meets every quarter to talk about what the school districts need from the city and what the city can get from the school district, so that we can work collaboratively to build up and help everyone be successful. I represent an incredibly diverse district. I'm really proud of the fact that one of my initiatives as a council member, one of my priorities is to make sure that my staff reflects our district. I have the most diverse staff in the 18th floor of City Hall, and will continue to appoint people to commissions and other bodies in the city of San Jose to make sure that they are reflective of the city. There's only 2 members of the Planning Commission who are women in the entire city of San Jose. One is our District 4 appointee. We need to do better. We need to make sure that the leadership in the city, that the staffs in the city are reflective of our diverse community, and I'm committed to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Kansen.
Thank you very much, the moderator and the SVCN, for hosting this forum that really give me the opportunity to understand what's the most important issue of the nonprofit organizations. And I want to also take this opportunity to thank all the SVCN members for your contribution to our overall community. Sometimes I felt that the nonprofit can accomplish more than the government itself. So thank you very, very much. I'm coming back to my root, really trying to improve the quality of life issues. I have a long history of being a public servant, and very proud to have a long list of success. But right now, the city is at a crossroad. People don't feel safe to even walk in their park. Just in the Penitentiary Creek Park, we have several stabbing incidents, and we have some traffic fatalities. And so public safety is my number one concern. I definitely like to work with the SVCN and your members to address the other important issues like the affordability issues, the homelessness issues. But I also wanted to focus on the future and the future of our San Jose, to make sure that the San Jose doesn't have to facing a budget deficit year after year from time to time. So thank you very much for your time, and happy Valentine's Day.
Well, thank you, candidates, for both, participating in this forum. It's been great, and I'll pass it on back to Angel.
Great. Thank you, candidates, for joining us today. We really appreciate you sharing your visions for your district and for San Jose at large. And of course, a special shout out to our amazing moderator, Lauren, who's been absolutely wonderful at moderating today's forum, and also did a great job at moderating our last forum for our District 5 Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors forum. All of your time is much appreciated, and we're so happy to have you all join us. And finally, as a nonprofit association, we do want to be as accessible to you as possible. Please reference the information that we have listed on the slide to best inform you how to contact us, contact our team. And your feedback, as always, your feedback and suggestions really do help us improve the ways that we serve this sector.